I'm XPLovecat, and today we're going to be talking about investigation. So, most RPGs have some form of investigation or mystery at some point in time during play. Even if it's just exploration, but most of the time there's going to be something you're trying to figure out or solve. Even if it isn't a traditional murder mystery, there's some sort of investigation that you'll probably be doing in role-playing games. And this goes for all character types too. It's not just if you're a private investigator or a detective. All character types have some sort of role in investigation and trying to figure out what is going on in the story at the table. I've compiled my top tips for how to be a better and more effective investigator and to also get more immersed in the story and therefore get more enjoyment from the investigation piece of role-playing games. My first tip is to be curious. Now, this might seem obvious, but I have a story that will tell you it's not always obvious. I was playing a convention scenario with several other players, and we decided to branch off into two different groups. One person went specifically to the church, and a few other of us went to different locations. So this person that went to the church, he walked in, kind of did some looking around, and there was a journal that was closed, but there was a little piece of paper sticking out, and it was just lying on one of the benches. Now, this player saw the journal, and he said, well, I have no reason to look at the journal because I don't have enough information to motivate me to look at the journal. So he left the church without looking at the journal. And then he didn't tell any of the other players about it either. I would understand if he was playing some sort of character that was, protective of privacy, didn't really want to get caught, was scared, something about the character. But in that case, you would want to tell the other players about what you found. So if they wanted to investigate, they could. But I didn't really feel like I could metagame and say, well, there was a journal in the church because he never told any of us. So that just goes to show that maybe it's not always intuitive to be curious. But I think it's really important if you want to be successful at investigating. So what this really means is when you're going to different places, you ask yourself questions. So if you're going into the church and there's a journal lying on the bench, you would maybe question that and say, why did someone leave their journal? Did they know they left their journal? What is the journal about? What does it look like on the outside? Is there any clues that I can see just from it laying there? These are the questions that you can ask about the situation that you're in to try and get to the bottom of what's going on. So my favorite question is to ask why. And then you can just keep asking why, until you get further down the rabbit hole and further closer, hopefully, to an answer for whatever is going on. Number 2 is to have a motivation. So this might be something deep embedded in your character where you just want to help people, or there's a specific mystery that's going to get you closer to finding your long-lost sister, or there's something deep within your backstory that's motivating you. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just money, or sometimes it's you want to help the baker in figuring out something that's going on in the town. Make sure you have some sort of motivation to connect with your character so that if there's a situation where you get confused and you don't really know what's going on, you have some sort of thing to hang on to that keeps you going and keeps you investigating and keeps you interested in the story. So my top tip is if you don't know what your motivation is, ask the GM. They should be there to hopefully help you and provide a little bit of gas for why you should be going down this investigation and figuring out what's going on. Number 3 is to have an open mind. And this would be in regards to the solution and also different theories. So for example, 9 out of 10 times, the mayor's the bad guy, but that 1 out of 10 times, it's really good to be open and explore different avenues before always assuming that the bad guy is the mayor. It's also important that you keep an open mind in regards to other players at the table. So you might either think that you have it figured out or think that there's only 2 possible solutions to this mystery or the investigation. But if you really take the time to listen to the other players at the table, you might find that they have some really interesting theories. Even if you don't think that they're right, it might be worth sometimes going down that path at least a little ways so you can experience different things and get clarity and maybe find different clues that would point in a direction that you didn't have initially. So make sure to really keep an open mind as you're going through the investigation process. Number 4 is to take notes. This doesn't have to be super detailed like a novel that you're writing down every single thing that you hear and every single clue that you see, but having the basics written down so you remember names and locations, that is something that will really help you in the future if you're trying to remember back to what you learned earlier and different clues and how they connect. Sometimes it's a lot easier to see everything written out on a page so you can connect the dots as opposed to trying to remember everything in your head and not seeing it physically on a piece of paper. Number 5 is to recreate the timeline. Now, this would be only really applicable for a certain specific event or thing that happened that you're trying to get to the bottom of, but it's really important to really place the time in which things happened and the order in which things happened. Because when you have that clarity, then you're going to be able to really eliminate possibilities and be left with a smaller pool of things that could be going on. The next few tips are in regards to actually connecting with NPCs and having conversations with them to try and get to the bottom of things. So number 6 is to ask open-ended questions. Asking these open-ended questions will encourage the NPCs to give more information than just yes or no. So for example, instead of just saying, "Were you at the park at 2 o'clock yesterday?" you can ask, "Hey, can you walk me through what you did yesterday?" And that is going to give you a ton of information. Not only that, it'll give you an opportunity to learn how they talk, their mannerisms, and maybe some tics if your GM is really paying attention to those things. Another example of open-ended questions would be like if you found an artifact and you can ask them, "Where's this artifact from?" They might say, "Peru." But if you ask them, "Wow, this is a really fantastic artifact. It's really unique. How did you end up getting possession of this?" That is going to give you a lot more details and give the NPC opportunities to mess up their story if they're lying. If they're easily able to say yes, no, Peru, something that's a one-word answer, then that's going to be a lot easier for them to get off and not give you details and potentially lie. Number 7 is to pay attention to body language. So some GMs are really good about displaying the body language at the table, but if your GM tends to not do that as much, it's important that you directly ask the GM. How is this NPC sitting? Are they crossing their arms? Do they look confident? Are they looking you directly in the eyes? Kind of give those things. And depending on the system, there might actually be roles associated with this so that you can get a better understanding of their body language and what exactly it means. Number 8 is to find multiple sources for information. So NPCs are very easily able to lie, so it's important that you get the story from multiple points of view. This will also give you certain details that you might not get from just one person. In addition to this, it's important that you know who you're talking to. So if it's someone that historically has had a really good record, nothing that they've done has flashed anywhere in the town or wherever they are, it's possible that they're a more trustworthy source than someone who necessarily has been to jail multiple times or has done things to cause trouble. Being able to connect people with their backgrounds might give you more clarity on the information that's being given to you. Number 9 is to know when you should push for more information and when you should flee. This is particularly important if you're interacting with someone that is potentially dangerous. If you push them too far, they might get a little bit angry, and either an interaction might happen during that conversation, or they might just send people after you later. So it's important to find that balance and understand who you can really ask more information from, and who you should keep surface level and try to find the information from a different source. So be very aware of who the NPC you're talking to is and if they're potentially dangerous. And number 10 is being comfortable that you might not get every single clue. So you're going to do a lot of talking to different NPCs, looking at different locations, putting this timeline together, and trying to put all the puzzle pieces in one place. But sometimes you might have a puzzle piece that you don't get, either because you didn't know where that puzzle piece was or you didn't have time to get to it. So making sure that you have a little bit of a comfort level and knowing that it's okay if you don't have every single clue, you might sometimes have to take the leap. And the good thing is that it's just a game, so if you end up being wrong, you still got to play a very fun story and got to experience a great time with people at the table. So those are my top tips for how to be a better investigator and hopefully how to get more fun out of the mystery and the exploring part of role-playing game. If you like this video, you might like these over here or here. I don't remember what side it is. But if you like talking about role-playing games, make sure to subscribe for more videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.